Welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for clicking to watch this video. It's Sandra here and I'm back with another Wednesday's Wahala, you guys. This is where I attempt to do a makeup look while talking about a DV situation that went really bad. And my goal here is just to create awareness to domestic violence and to stress on the importance of getting out while you still can, the importance of getting out before it's too late. Because last week we talked about Karabo Mokoena. If you have not watched that video, I'm going to link it in the description box below, or you can go in the playlist and it's going to be there with several other videos that you might want to watch too. Before I get into the story for today, I just want to say that this story, just like all the other stories that I've shared previously, if you have been watching, contains DV and the loss of life. So if this is something that you are not comfortable with, you might want to click out right now because it is what it is. Today's look, I'm going to be using the Sunset Horizons palette from Beauty Bay. It's a pretty palette. This is more of a summer kind of look, but hey, we're getting into summer, right? I can't wait. So Beauty Bay, I'm just starting to get into their palettes and they are pretty good and also very affordable. So if you're looking for an affordable set that you want to get or an affordable palette that you want to get, maybe look into Beauty Bay. You're gonna love it. So let's get into this look and talk about today's Wahala. Today's story is a very insane one. Okay, this is a story of a man that deleted his family twice. So he did it the first time, served time in jail, got out, and then did it again. Yes, it's unbelievable, but it did happen. So if you want to hear about this story, keep watching. To better understand this story, we have to go all the way back to the 90s when Gregory deletes his first wife. So in the 90s, he had been married to his wife Tanya for a couple of years, and things were starting to change in the relationship. He wasn't the same person that he was, like she had complained to her friends. Of course, in the beginning, it was good, right? But after a couple of years, she was starting to see him changing. He wasn't the same. He was like he was starting to get physical with her. So she was smart. She complained to a friend of hers, told her friend that she wasn't gonna be in this marriage anymore. She was gonna leave him. And she had actually made plans that that Sunday after church, she was going to leave him. Tanya was pregnant at the time. When she got home, I guess after church, as she had planned, when she tells him that she's going to leave, one thing get to another, they get into an altercation, and this guy grabs a weapon, okay, the sharp weapon. He grabs this sharp weapon that they use in the kitchen and he stabs this woman. Okay, did I tell you she was pregnant? Stabs her in the neck, stabs her in the stomach, and then what he does next, he calls 911 and tells them that, oh, I just deleted my wife. You guys can come and get me. He sat in the front and waited for the police to come and get him. Now Tanya had two girls that I don't believe were his children. She had two girls that hid in the closet, and just thank God that they hid themselves away so that he couldn't reach them. But that's how he deleted that first one. Now he has called the police. The police comes there. They arrest him. They take him away, and he goes to trial. And the guy tries to plead insanity, right? Claiming that he wasn't in the right frame of mind when he did what he did. But after examinations, like after all the evaluations and everything, they find out that he was fit to stand trial. He wasn't crazy, but he didn't have any mental illness or anything. So they sent him to trial and was found guilty and sentenced to 15 to 20 years for deleting his wife and his unborn child. Like 15 to 20 years, you guys. See, this whole story, the whole thing is just like, how? How do you delete a pregnant woman and you get 15 to 20 years for it? Well, he serves his time. Unfortunately, he doesn't serve the entire 20 years. Why? Because from 15 years, he's eligible for parole, right? So there are several things that they look at when you're asking for parole, to be released on parole. So they look at good behavior, they look at petitions and several other things. You have to convince the parole board that you are not going to be a threat to society when you get out. So he starts paroling, and they denied the guy parole 4 times. 4 times he applies for parole and he's denied. Parole board, they state that he doesn't show any remorse. He doesn't. It's not like he regrets his actions, because he was still blaming the wife, like, for wanting to leave him and blaming her for everything. It was her fault that he did what he did to her. So the parole board denied him 4 good times. So his family decided, okay, maybe it would be a good idea if we try to intervene in this. So they started writing letters to the parole board, petitioning for his parole and giving reasons why they felt that he could live, like, he wasn't a danger to society. He had learned a lesson. His sister wrote a letter, his mom wrote a letter, and there was this pastor in the church that Gregory used to attend before he went to jail. I think he was personal friends with the pastor. I don't know what the background is with both of them, but the pastor decided to also intervene. He wrote a letter to the parole board stating that Gregory had learned from his mistakes, he had served his time. But the annoying thing was the language that he used in the letter, one of the letters that he wrote. He mentioned that he was friends with Gregory before his mishap. Gregory's mishap, and he went to jail, like referring to Gregory deleting his pregnant wife and the child as a mishap. That was just a very, very wrong choice of words. I don't know. Like, if you fall and break your leg, we'll call that a mishap. You will not delete your pregnant wife and child viciously, and the pastor is referring to it as a mishap. But anyway, he does that. He writes several letters, and finally, on the 5th try, the parole board, they sit and they evaluate the situation. They're like, oh, he's been a good inmate. He hasn't been in any major fights. I think he was in one fight the whole time he was there. So, and then there's all this community. He has a strong community. He has a pastor behind him. He has family behind him. The mother even said that he was gonna live with them when he got out of jail and all of that. So they looked at all of it and they were like, okay, let him go. He deleted his wife and daughter, but I'm sure he's a better person now. He served his time, and it's time for him to go back. So they released him after 5 tries. In 2008, Gregory is back on the street. He's starting to get back, starting to live his life again. He gets a job. He's going to church, interacting with Sango pastor, and while all of that is going on, he falls in love. And guess who he falls in love with? The pastor's daughter. Yes, That very pastor that helped him get out of jail, who petitioned for him, his name was Pastor Harris. Pastor Harris helps Gregory get out of jail, and while Gregory is trying to get his life back, trying to get things back to normal, he falls in love with the pastor's daughter. Her name is Faith Harris. Now, Gregory and Faith start dating. Everything is good. Gregory is still on parole. He's on parole for 2 years. Okay. So during that time, he's a good boy. You know, with parole, they have to check in with the parole officer. You have to be good. If not, you're going to go back to jail. So he's doing everything right. He's a nice guy. And he falls in love with Faith. Faith already has 2 children of her own. And sometime in 2010, they get married and they get 2 other girls. So Faith now has 4 children. Faith's children are called Chadney, Cara, Coy, and Kaylee. So she has 1 boy and 3 girls. Faith and Gregory are married, right? They have 4 children. It's a happy family. Everything is going on very, very well. Until Gregory starts to act crazy again. Like it's something that goes on in his head that just makes him start to change, just like he was changing the first time with his first marriage. He starts to change again on Faith. And Faith, after a while, she too couldn't take it. She decided that he was getting too violent for her. She said she was going she went in 2013 to file a restraining order against him. Unfortunately, in the restraining order, for some reason, she doesn't mention that this guy had previously deleted his wife and his unborn child. You know, I would think that is the first thing that he will put in that restraining order, that this is a dangerous man. This man, he's deleted before, and I'm scared for my life that he's going to delete me. She doesn't mention that. She just mentions all the things that, and that's why I kind of feel like maybe she didn't know his background. I don't know. But she just mentions the things that he's been doing around the house. He's been acting like violent. He was kicking stuff and violent towards the kids and herself. So the police or the courts, they don't feel like there's a lot of evidence for them to grant her a restraining order, so they deny it. She had also filed for a divorce, but after they denied the restraining order, I think Gregory probably went to her and he was like, he's sorry, he apologized for everything that happened, and she forgave him, and they got back together. They started living together again. Life is good. Everything is good. Until it changes again. So in 2016, she decides to file for another divorce. In August of 2015, she files for another divorce. And this is just 1 month before the whole tragedy happens. 1 month before she files for divorce. But it seems like while she had put in that divorce, they were still living together. He was still living in the house. And know by now that Gregory doesn't take divorce nicely. Okay, he doesn't take rejection nicely from the way that he treated his first wife. While Faith had her plans to leave Gregory had his own plans for her. So in September of 2016, he went to Home Depot and bought all the materials that he needed to do his evil act on his family. Gregory went home, took his wife Faith, took her down to the basement, tied her up, took the weapon, the boom weapon, and hit her in the leg with it. He took the sharp weapon and cut her from here to here while she's tied up. He went and took her two oldest children. That's Chadney and Kara, her two oldest children. They were teenagers at the time. Took them, brought them down to the basement where she was at, had them tie each other, and he took the boom boom weapon and hit the two of them. This guy was so evil. Like, I cannot even imagine what was going on in his mind at that time when he was doing these things. He took those two kids, her oldest children, and she made her watch as he put the weapon on their head and delete both of them. He's not done. He goes and gets the two little girls, the two last ones that were his own biological children. He takes them into the car. In the garage, he locks them in the car, starts the engine, and kind of connects a tube from the exhaust to inside the car so that they would suffocate. Like, this guy, I don't know, like, listening to this thing the whole time. When I'm listening to this and watching the videos and watching the stories and watching other people cover this story, it just is so evil. Like, who is this guy? Who is this person? Like, who would do something like this? 4 children just like that in the blink of an eye. When he's done with all the rampage, with all the viciousness and all the evil, Gregory, just like the first time, takes the phone, calls 911 and tells them, oh yeah, I just deleted my entire family. You guys can come and get me. I have a hard time like imagining the kind of evil that this person is. Okay, this person is not human. Like, you don't do something like this and you're still human. So of course he sits there and waits for the police to come and get him. For the second time, this guy deletes his family. And this one is so painful because he makes this woman watch how he deletes all her children. Like, oh God. Like, when I was doing this story, I haven't felt this terrible researching a story like this one. Like, I could feel my hands sweating. I could feel my palms sweating. My feet were sweating. I was literally shaking just listening to this. It's disgusting. Faith doesn't lose her life in the incident, and I do not think that he intended to delete her. I think that he wanted her to really suffer, like deleting her children right in front of her and making her watch. But he inflicted the pain that he inflicted on this woman. You know, sometimes you go through so much pain that you just feel like, okay, maybe I would be better off just deleting, you know, instead of living with this type of pain. First, he had hit her in the leg with the weapon, the boomed her in the leg. So she was paralyzed there for a little bit. She couldn't walk. And then she had this scar on her face that he tore out up with the sharp weapon. and then watching him take two of her children, and then the other two are in the car, gone. Those are the scars that I don't think she would ever get over, you know. So he's arrested. They go to court, and he pleads guilty. Now, I guess he was pleading guilty because he wanted to get a lesser sentence. Let's talk a little bit about Faith Green. This girl, she's probably the strongest woman I've ever seen. I'm telling you. This woman was so strong. She came to the trial. During the trial, she was there in a wheelchair. And when she was asked to address Gregory, she was, I can't put into words what I felt for this woman. Like, she talked to this guy. For me, she was kind of flat, right? She didn't have so much of an emotion going on. I feel like at some point, when you've been through so much pain, at some point you can't even cry anymore, but you express your pain in different ways, which I feel that's what she's going through at the time. Because she didn't look like, if you didn't know the story, you wouldn't even imagine what she was going through at the time. But she spoke to him, told him that you wanted me to suffer, but I'm not gonna suffer. You know, told him that his own pain is gonna start after he dies. Like, he's not gonna feel any pain right now, but he will feel it after he's passed. And for me, that her statement, like when she was talking to this man, I just felt, I can just imagine everything that's going on in her mind. You know, looking at this man that just took away all her children, everything that means the world to her. You know, her children were so smart. The two older ones were teenagers. The oldest one, I think he was in college already or something. Straight A students, very smart, bright future. Oh my goodness. I don't know how you heal from something like this. Yeah, so she said that she was having short-term memory, like she was losing her she lost her short-term memory, and she was suffering from PTSD. And she said that the loss of her short-term memory, she said the doctor said, is a way of her body just trying to forget what happened. But I don't know. How do you forget something like that? I don't want to say that it would have been better if she hadn't seen the kids, how it happened. I don't want to say that, because either way it's still bad. But just imagine, like, how do you get that image out of your head? Him putting the weapon to the kids and just taking them like that. Yeah. It's just terrible. Now I want to talk about her father. Remember her father, the Pastor Harris, that helped this guy to get out of jail for good behavior. And he did call his act of deleting his wife, his pregnant wife, and the unborn child. He called it a mishap. Now, I know that his heart was in a good place, okay? But it's just, I don't know what he would be thinking now. You know, I don't know what he too should be going through a whole lot. Like, look at this person that I fought for. Look at this person that I tried to help, you know. And I'm sure, I don't know. I don't know what to say without being like sounding terrible. But why would you let your daughter, okay? Why would you let your daughter fall in love with somebody like this? I'm sorry. Somebody who deleted his wife, an unborn child. Like, I don't know. I don't know what this pastor was thinking. You know. Again, I said that his heart was in a good place because it really does feel like this guy manipulated everybody. Okay, he fooled everyone thinking that he was a good person, he has changed and all of that. He went to jail, didn't even get into any fights, he was a good citizen while he was there, and he just fooled everyone. So at some point, I really don't want to blame this man too, but sometimes we just have to use common sense. Okay, for me this one was just common sense. It was just as simple as that. So when it came to Gregory's turn to talk in the court, I mean, sometimes for me, I feel like sometimes we don't want to hear what these people have to say, okay? Because it was just annoying. So he came up and it was all about him, how this thing affected him, how he was missing his girls, how he loved his girls. How do you say that you love your girls, then you can delete them in such a brutal way? How can you sit up here and say that you love your girls and you miss them and you can do something like that to them? He said he loved the girls, he misses them, he's very sad how everything just happened. He's not proud of how everything turned out and how it has affected everybody else. But what is oh my god. For this guy to sit out there and say that after everything that has happened, God still has a plan for him. Can you imagine that what God cannot do does not exist? He still has a plan for him, and he knows that. What is the plan really? What is the plan that God has for you that you haven't done already? Like the first time you did it to your pregnant wife, you deleted your pregnant wife. Now you've deleted 4 children, innocent children, and God has another plan for you. Like, what is this plan? Like, it's ridiculous. Who wants to hear this? And you should see his expression. Like, he's blank. He has no remorse. He's not crying. He's not sobbing. He's just there. Like, sit down. In the end, Gregory was found guilty, of course, and sentenced to spend 45 to 100 years in prison. And the judge at the time wished that she could change the verdict, like she could give him even life without parole, but that could have happened only if they had gone to trial and then found him guilty. Okay, he got 45 to 100 because he accepted to take the plea deal. And the judge explained that she'd allowed the deal because felt like Faith had gone through a lot already. She'd gone through too much, and if they had to go for a trial, she would have to testify and she would have to relive that day again and explain everything that happened and all of that. And the judge was like, she didn't want Faith to go through that, so she accepted the plea deal, which again at 45 to 100 years, he should be in his 90s or so by the time he gets out. Is that enough? What is enough, really? Because enough would be whatever brings those children back. For me, that would be enough. But at this point, what is it that you can do that will bring them back? Whether you send him to jail for 500 years, even a life sentence, even a death penalty, I don't think would be enough for all the pain that this woman has been through and everything that she's seen and losing all her children in this life, in this whole wide world, in the way that she did. I don't think any sentence would be enough for him. But I think that he is where he's supposed to be. Whatever plan that God has for him, I think it is right there in the jail. His plan is for him to stay there and maybe he could change, maybe minister to people there in the jail, but he has no business being outside because he's going to do it again. I feel like for me, if you do something, some accidental kind of deleting, okay, that's the one who'll say, okay, this person, it was an accident, they didn't mean to, I regret it the rest of my life. But for someone to viciously do something like this without remorse the first time, and you think that going to jail and attending some classes and doing some programs is gonna just change him like that? No, that's evil. He's an evil person, and it's not just gonna change like that. He's gonna do it again and again and again. So it's just so sad. Let's talk a minute about red flags, okay? Because the whole of this story was screaming red flags the whole time. Red flags, red flags, red flags in abusive relationships. I don't blame, the only person that's to blame in this story is Gregory, okay? He's the one that committed the act. He's the one that's supposed to be blamed. But Faith, how do you sleep with both eyes closed next to a man that deleted his pregnant wife? How? That's the only question I have for this woman. Like, how? It's not your fault that he did what he did. But I just want to know where your courage came from. Because it takes a lot of courage for you to be able to have a good night's sleep next to that kind of person. Like, yes, you and your father came from a good place. You wanted to help this guy. You wanted to help him from afar. Okay? Help him from afar. Let him stay over there and you help him. If he's coming to church, he comes to church and he works. You guys pray together and he goes to his house. I'm not bringing you close to my family. I'm not bringing you close to my kids. You're not coming to my house. I am definitely not sleeping next to you. So how did she do it? I mean, this was the biggest red flag ever. For somebody to do that to his wife and you feel that he's normal. TV relationships, most times they don't just wake up, especially these ones that get to this point where it's too late, where there's deleting involved. They don't just wake up one morning and decide to do this, or they just change and snap one day. No, there are signs, there are red flags. We see them and we ignore them. Okay, we see them, we ignore them, and we believe that they're going to change, because this woman, from the beginning, she saw the red flags, that he did this before, spent time in jail. She ignored that, and when he started getting violent, she went and filed for divorce. She went and filed for restraining order. Why did you get back together with him? Why? Those are the red flags. Those are the things that's the point where you run and be like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, again, I'm not blaming her. We're just trying to learn and see how we can do things better moving forward. You know, because these are things that we ignore, and then at the end of the day, it's too late. So there we have the story of the man that deleted his family twice. Very, 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 very sad story, which in my opinion could have been avoided. Okay, I have no idea how the law works. I don't know how they give those sentences, but if I was to decide this guy's fate, from the very first deleting of his first wife, this guy should have had a life sentence. If he had that life sentence back then, this wouldn't have happened to these innocent children. Okay, I don't believe that somebody that would do something like that can change. I don't believe that they can change. They need to just stay in jail and do whatever they want to do there, and just, you know, they have no business being outside in the midst of people, of humans, because they are not humans. Okay, so this story is as sad as it is. I hope that again, like I said, we learned something out of this. You know, let's not ignore those red flags. The signs are always there. They are always there. Let's follow our gut and run while you still can. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't. And the biggest red flag of all, the biggest red flag of all time, is that if this guy has done this before, he's gonna do it again. I don't know how I would fall in love with someone like that and get a good night's sleep next to someone like that. Like I'll be like this with one eye open and one eye closed. I cannot have a good night's sleep. I'm sorry, I can't. But I hope that faith is able to heal. It's gonna be a long road, but I just wish her the best, you know, and I wish her father the best too, because it cannot be easy for him. It cannot be easy for him at all. He's at some point gonna blame himself for bringing this man into his family. But like I said, I believe that his heart was in a good place. If he knew that this person was who he was, he manipulated everybody, I don't think he would have brought him into his home. So let me know your thoughts about today's video, as sad as it is. I'm just hoping that we're able to get some lessons out of it for today. Okay. So if you are still watching up to this point, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not already. Show some love. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.